Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today we find ourselves back creating beautiful stained glass windows. Last year, Floodgate Games came out with a dice drafting game called Sagrada, and I loved this game so much it made my top 10 games of the year, and I gave it my Dice Game of the Year award. Recently, the first expansion came out that introduced a private dice pool that really changed up the strategy in the game, and it also allowed you to play with 5 to 6 players. Well, Floodgate Games has just announced 3 upcoming expansions for Sagrada. These expansions will be part of what's called the Great Facades, and they'll be called Passion, Life, and Glory. Each of these 3 expansions will be modular, where you can add in some or all the different modules within each one, and they're all compatible with that first expansion called the 5 to 6 player expansion that I just recently mentioned. Now today, I'm going to show you a preview of the first of the upcoming 3 modular expansions in the Great Facade series called Passion. So I'm going to show you how the different modules work, and then I'll see you on the other side, where I'll tell you a little bit more about how you can try this upcoming expansion out right at the Essen Spiel fair, which is about to start and runs from October 25th to the 28th. Without further ado, let's get started. Now I'm going to go over all 5 different modules. The first one we'll talk about is the Inspiration module. Now during setup, before you select which card you're going to place into your window, then each player will get one of these cards randomly shuffled and dealt to them. They would flip it over like this, and they would use the ability. And some of them are once per game, some of them are once per round. But on this one, for example, Foresight, once per game after drafting a die, you can place that drafted die on this card, and then during a future turn, you can place this die into your window. Now this is once per game, so once it's used, you would simply just flip it over. With Resourcefulness, once per round, after drafting a die, you can lose one of your favors to swap the die that you drafted with one of the ones from the round track, and then go ahead and place this on your board. Now this one is once per round, so you flip it over when you use it, but at the beginning of the next round, you can flip it back over. With Influence, once per game, you can gain up to 3 favor tokens from 1 tool card, and you actually get to have these. This is once per game, so it would get flipped over. Now, Courage allows you once per game when you're placing a die to break a color or number restriction. Normally, you'd need to put a 4 here, but you could break that once per game, like putting something else like a 6, and this is once per game, it would flip over like that. Or instead of that, if you wanted to break the color restriction, here we need to put a purple, but let's say we would break it by putting a yellow here, and again, we wouldn't have used this yet, and so now we would flip it over once per game and Courage would be done. Once per game, Knowledge allows you to increase the value of every die in the dice pool by 1, you would just up the pips. With Luck, after drafting a die, once per round, you can re-roll the die, and if you can't place it, you can return it to the draft pool once per round, so you flip it over when you use it, and at the beginning of the next round, you flip it back over. And with Wisdom, usually to use a tool that has at least 1 favor token on it, it costs you 2, but with Wisdom, no matter what, it only costs you 1 to use it. Now the Rare Glass module has multiple components to it. It has rare glass dice, and some tool cards, and some private objectives. When setting up, instead of having 3 normal tool cards, you'll have 2 of them selected as normal randomly, and then you'll have one of a few different rare glass ones. So you'll have 1 rare glass tool that's selected randomly, and the other tool cards for a total of 3 like normal. You'll have this random glass die, this rare one, and you'll roll it, and it will sit on here. And just like the other tools, they're used the same way. You can use it anytime on your turn. And for example, instead of drafting from the draft pool, you can draft and place this die in one of the corner locations of your window, keeping this value. Now, as soon as someone does use this, of course, they would have to pay for it normally with the the favor tokens. But once any of these glass tool cards, the die has been used, you'll take another one of those glass die, because it comes with multiples of those. You'll roll it and you'll place it on there. Now let me show you the other ones. Again, you're only using 1 of these rare glass tool cards per game, but this flash glass, if you take this, again, anytime on your turn you can do it, of course you just pay the normal favor, and you take this and it says you can place this, and if you place it where another die of the same value is, you can actually put this there. Now these glass dice, remember, are any color you want them to be, but you can only ever have 1 of these in your board for the entire game. Now, once you've done this, you're going to replace this die back to the draft pool. Now, if you're using the ring modeled glass, let's say you draft a die, let's say it's like this, and then you have to re-roll it. If you roll that drafted die and its value matches this, then you basically can take this one, set it to any value, and place it in your window. Then you return this drafted die back to the dice pool. Remember, you can only ever have one of these glass die on your board the entire game. Now, there's also rare glass private objectives, and you can only use these when you're using the rare glass module of the dice and the tools and such, but it's optional. Basically, you'd shuffle all these rare glass private objectives around. You'd get one face down. Each player can secretly look at it for your new private objective, and you score these as normally at the end of the game. Now, to further balance things, if you are playing with this rare glass private objectives, do not mix in the other private objectives. For example, this one will score you a certain amount of points. You add up all the pips in the row that you have the rare glass die in. For this one, you'd add up all of the light and medium, which is the 1, 2, 3, and 4 values that surround the rare glass die. Here, you'd sum up the highest pip values for each of the surrounding colors that surrounds that rare glass die. And for this, you'd get 3 points for each unique color or number that surrounds that rare glass die. And the last module I'll talk about is the Symmetry public objectives. You would shuffle these in with the other regular public objectives, and if they come up, you fall scoring as normal. But they have to do symmetry on your board, for example, horizontal symmetry. If you have the same color and value that's offset the same amount from the center column, then you can basically, pairs of the same color will get you 7 points. So if you had a yellow 6 here and a yellow 6 here, because they're both just one away from the center and they're matching color and die value, you'd get 7. Same with this. You have a red 5, 2 horizontally to the center, 2 to the right horizontally to the center, same value, same color, that would get you 7 points. So if you had this, it'd be a total of 14 points there. This one is similar to how it works, but instead of having both the color and the value needing to match, this one you just need to have the same value mirrored, but it is worth less points per that pair. And then the horizontal color symmetry, again, it works the same way, but instead of needing values and color, in this case you just need color. So 4 points. So if you do just color symmetry, it's 4, just values, it's 4, but if you get values and you get the color, then it's 7 per pair. Well, there you have the upcoming expansion, Passion. Now, as I've shown, it brings in multiple modular concepts like inspiration cards to give each player a unique advantage over others, or rare glass cards that allow you to obtain glass dice that can represent any color when placed in your window, new private objectives that combine with those rare glass dice to create new scoring opportunities, and new public objectives that reward players for creating horizontal and vertical symmetry and balance in your window. Now, the Essen Spiel fair is in Germany and it's about to start. And now you can play this expansion right there. Floodgate Games will be at the Matagot Booth, which can be found in Hall 3, number E102. That's 3E102. Now, pre-orders will begin later this winter, but you'll have a chance to play it at the fair. So I hope that you check them out at that booth, and then keep your eyes open for the pre-orders that'll be coming later this winter. This has been the Game Boy Geek, helping you find and enjoy the next board game you'll love.